an important discussion. We are talking about why suddenly there has been a spate of cancer cases. And, I just want to put a little bit of a context here. 1 in 9 people in India are going to be diagnosed with cancer, and this is a very concerning statistic. So what is it that is triggering this epidemic? Let's get straight to it. We're talking about the external factors. Dr. Shyam Agarwal, I want to start with you. Do you see the link in increasing cases of cancer and the change in the environment? You know, the pollution levels are going up. Every year, Delhi alone faces such high levels of air pollution. There is exposure to radiation. There is chemicals in our day-to-day life. Do you see the connection?
Yeah, so absolutely. So first of all, I think let me tell the audience that currently in our country, we have almost 15 to 16 lakh new cases of cancer. And it is projected by WHO, ICMR, Globocan figures that in the next 10 years, it will be about 25 lakhs. So in spite of our understanding of various causes of cancer, which include tobacco chewing, smoking, alcohol, so it seems that we're not going to be able to take care of those. So why is it that the cancer numbers are going to go, higher, not only in India, but all across the globe? So the precise cause is not known, but yes, pollution, as you said, whether it is coming from vehicles, whether it is industrial pollution, or from construction, chulhas and so many other things which are happening around us. And even the climate change is possibly contributing to the rising incidence of cancer in our country and across the globe. So, that's number one. It is said that cancer is a lifestyle disease. So, what is happening to all of us in the developed world, and now even we are also, emerging as a developing nation or even out of that, zone. So obesity and certain lifestyle changings are contributing to the rising incidence of cancer. Your diet, for example, which I think they'll come to. So that nutritional factor, as you said, is extremely important. But I think if you are not exercising, if your body mass index is going up, if you are smoking, if you have alcohol consumption, so, the incidence of cancer is going up.
You're putting yourself at risk. Let me get Vandana in this conversation, and Sir talked about nutrition. I'm talking about this group. We are living in Delhi, and much of our fruits and vegetables are coming from the Yamuna riverbed. And we know it's frothing with chemicals. There is research that says that there is presence of heavy metal. Can you see that as a cancer trigger? And what is it that we can do? We know the situation, but what is it that we can do to safeguard ourselves?
As we know that air pollution and this everything, and especially in Delhi, Yamuna, we have heavy metals like arsenic and everything. And when we are eating our food, that is fruits, vegetables, and water, we are getting the contaminated water from that. And we are taking that, and it is getting mixed in our body, and it is increasing the cancer chances. So for protection, we have to boil the water, and that is the best thing, or we can use the purified water. And for vegetables and fruits, we have to wash them thoroughly with the salt water or the vinegar water. That is very good. And we have to take a balanced diet that will include the grains, the vegetables, fruits, and everything, which will decrease the immunity, increase the immunity, and that will reduce the inflammation in the body, and that will decrease the cancer content. So this is the best, and we have to take a balanced and a sustainable diet.
Right, balanced and sustainable diet. Yes. But yes, no denying that the fruits and vegetables that we may be eating can be a big risk factor. Also, let me get in Dr. Nitin Srivastava. Urological cancers are considered rare when we look at the numbers, right? Basically, the biggest ones are lung or oral cancers, like Dr. Srivastava said. But do you see in that rare cancer also a number going up? And do you make the connection to the sort of increased use of chemicals that we are consuming, applying, which is around us, surrounding us completely? Do you see that connect?
See, there is definitely a connect with the chemicals which we see all around us. For example, microplastics, the forever carbons. I don't know how many of us know about the forever carbons. These are the polycarbons, the Teflon-related chemicals which are there in your non-stick cookware. And gradually they have built up to some dangerous levels in our groundwater. And many other chemicals. They are all posing a risk. They are all a risk factor. Although urological cancers don't seem to be that much related to these, but they definitely have a role because, see, the inherited cancers means the cancer which come to us from our parents and which we will pass down to our children. They account for around 10 to maximum 12 or 15% of the cancers. Rest of the cancers, they develop over time. So it is aging, the environmental factors, the lifestyle, and some medical conditions like viral infections and some other infections. All of these, they add up to accumulation of DNA damage, and then the cancer develops. So there is definitely a very important role.
Yes, yes. You mentioned some of the chemicals that we, and we don't even realize. Let me just put, give you a little bit of a context. Here, BPA, which is used in production of polycarbonate plastics. This is found in hard, clear plastic bottles that we use, some food and beverage containers, the plastic containers, the plates, utensils, cookware that we have, food storage containers, so if your kitchen has these plastic dabbas, electric kettle, metal food and drink cans, jar lids and bottle caps, and phenols are present in disinfectants, mouthwashes, personal care products like cosmetics, paints, polishes, food packaging, and room deodorizers all have phenols. And the reason why I'm talking about BPA and phenol, Dr. Deepika Agarwal, is that there is a connection, isn't it, of hormonal disbalance when these chemicals are present in high amount, and with that, there is high risk of gynecological cancers.
Yeah, I think it's so overwhelming to hear whatever Megha just mentioned to us. I think these are such day-to-day products that almost all of us are, using. And we know these chemicals, what they tend to do is not just the hormonal alterations, they can do the genetic modulations. And that's where the role of the lifestyle or environmental factors come, that they are changing the DNA and the genes, and therefore cancer is like an epidemic. I hadn't seen these number of cancers which we are now seeing in our OPD almost, let's say, 10 years ago. Now, of course, these are things which we have to use. We have to be, living with the plastic bottles and all, but we can bring some day-to-day modifications. We can start using more of glass bottles. We can start using, traditional stainless steel utensils at home, or, there are bamboo plates and all those disposable things. Then there are recycling plastics coming, but try not to use them because when we are recycling the plastics, the amount of chemical alteration that's happening is much more than what's there in the plastics. Please try not to use your plastic bottle. Sometimes we are just putting in the microwave to heat something for 30 seconds or 1 minute. So those are the small changes we can make in our lifestyle to at least minimize or mitigate the risk of cancer.
Yeah.
Now when we come to these deodorants and all that, again, if you're using perfumes, deodorants, fragrance-free is something you can try and read on the label because when we are using fragrance, there are a lot of chemicals that are being used. Try to go more for the natural products. There are so many natural products nowadays coming in the market. So please, these are the alterations I would suggest.
I think that mindful use is the way to go because, it's everywhere. I read somewhere that even scented candles could be really, carcinogenic. Let me bring in Dr. Dinesh Pedhankar into the conversation. So what I want to ask you is that why, apart from the high number of cancer cases, it's also being noticed that cancer is catching people young now. It's not an old age condition anymore. And what I also want you to talk about is explain to us what the stage of cancer means, and why is it that the detection in most cases is coming in stage 3, stage 4, and not earlier.
So cancer can happen at any age, right from birth unto death. It is, on an average, a disease of the age. It may happen in young person, but it generally happens with the age. So please don't be afraid. That's my number one statement to you. That's why majority of the guidelines given by all oncology societies of the world. So you come to me and ask, sir, what checkup should I do to get detected my cancer early? This is a question asked by all of us, all of you sitting here. And the answer given by all the societies is, on an average, we would advise you to start an early cancer detection checkup at earliest 40 years of age and most probably at 50 years of age. What does that mean? That even I, as a science, do believe that I should be afraid more beyond 50 years of age. So please don't be afraid. That's number one. Number two, cancer can be detected early, and the only way to detect cancer early is, again, please remember, it's only cancer and health awareness amongst you. There are no specific tests. There are no specific procedures which would detect cancer early. Your awareness, your feeling, your being health aware is most important. Very simply, if I have to tell you, I just want you to know, see, you are already 30 years, 40 years. You already know yourself better than anybody else. If you find any change in your lifestyle or in your body, and if the change is sustained, for generally any change, you get a viral fever, you become fine in 3 days. You get some body ache, or some swelling by mosquito bite, it would become normal in 5 days. So if some problem which you feel your body has got a new symptom and is not going beyond 7-10 days, that would be the first time you should approach a doctor. But this doesn't mean cancer. Yeah. There are no specific signs of cancer. So approach your physician and start a journey from there. So follow standard guidelines. So why cancer is detected early, late? Because when you get these symptoms, you are not health conscious. You are not health aware. You believe, I never had this problem, probably it will settle down in 5-7 days, and then you forget after 7 days, and you go to the doctor a few months later. Not that there are many cancers with no signs. So if there is some space, some lesion or a mass in the lung, you won't go to a doctor unless you get a cough. And it takes time to have the cough. If there is something in the stomach, you may have no pain. So you will only approach a doctor when you get a symptom. So please, stage is not in your control.
Right.
Don't get frightened if somebody tells you that the disease is like this. You know yourself, please don't blame yourself. Because if you went to the doctor on that particular day, you knew why you didn't go early. So you don't have to blame yourself because you had no signs or symptoms.
Right.
If you are health conscious, you would definitely go on time.
Right. So I think the important point, I'm just coming in, but the important point that Dr. Dinesh is making is that we need to listen to our bodies and act on time. Dr. Shyam Agarwal, I'll start the second round of questions. And, when we're talking about what has changed, what has changed in our lifestyles. And one of the big things is that 10 years ago, we did not have social media. We did not have, so much content to watch. And what is being called today as doom scrolling. We're saying, okay, good night, but then for hours we are scrolling on our phone. So we're not getting good sleep, good quality sleep. Our brains are continuously active, even in sleep. So that is resulting in a lot of stress. Do you think that is also contributing in some way to our just general wellness and risk for potential cancer?
Cancer. So, you have to understand why cancer happens in a person's body. So, cancer can arise from any organ in the body, you name it, breast, oral, kidney, lung, liver, and so on. all the cells in our body are dividing at a particular rate. For example, if you donate blood, within 3 months you'll have blood. So the lung cells or liver cells divide at a much lower place. Time period is much more in the cell doubling time, as we call it. So the control of the division of the cells is with the genes. So when we are born, so those cells are dividing, and when they are dividing, there are going to be errors. So there are gene errors happening every day in my body, your body, anybody who's born. So people accumulate those abnormalities. So there is a rectification system in the body, which is the immune system. So cells which are dividing and they have an error gene which has gone mutated, so immune system will come in and remove that abnormal cell and therefore prevent cancer from happening. So when there is stress, whatever stress, so whether it is psychological stress, prolonged one, or for example, you are deprived of sleep, insomnia, people are working, their sleep rhythms are disturbed, your immune system gets affected. So when your immunity is going down, so it is not that functional. So it is not able to remove those abnormal cells which start getting accumulated. The gene mutations start getting accumulated, and that gives the advantage to that cancer cell to divide, proliferate, and metastasize, or to, go all over the body. So any stress which is prolonged in the body can lead to disturbance in the immune system, and therefore the immune system is not able to rectify those abnormal cells which are accumulating in our body. So I think that's the theory which is given for development of cancer in people who have, these long waking hours and stress, etc.
Yeah, that's the answer to the 70-hour and 90-hour work week.
Right.
It's important that we sit back and hear, listen to our bodies, and give it time to just recharge, recuperate. Vandana, getting you in here, and we're talking about the nutrition aspect and what is it that could possibly be kicking in the cancer risk. The changing look of our food, of our plate. There is more processed food. There are instant mixes, sauces of all kinds, heat and eat. Do you see that as a concerning trend?
Our body has got nowadays or everything. We have convenience for foods available in our life. So we order that, and it has become a part of our lifestyle that these convenience foods are coming up, and they have lot of sugar, high fats, and they have additives. So these are harmful, and they are creating cancers. So it is the processed foods and the smoked foods, red meats, they are all harmful, and they are using the trans fats. That is also very harmful for the body, and that is decreasing our immunity and increasing our inflammation in the body and obesity. Yeah. That is the great chance for the cancer development, and these we can protect them by using the home foods. Home foods.
Yes.
And seasonal and locally foods are the best.
Exactly, locally acquired, because there is a lot of now. I want to have avocado and quinoa, but local food is the best.
Seasonal food is the best.
Seasonal fruit is the best way to go. Dr. Srivastava, bringing you in here, one often reads about something called cancer villages of this. Village after village, or every person in this village has a case of cancer. We talked about the Yamuna belt. Do you see a geographical connection? A lot of doctors also talk about, like I said, Yamuna, not just in Delhi, but flowing through, and all the chemicals that are going through from Haridwar to here. Some research has gone into it, but from your experience, does geography play a role in cancer?
See, about the Ganga belt and Yamuna belt, definitely there are too many cancer cases happening. So interestingly, we were having a discussion about this a few weeks ago with my senior colleagues. So one of them pointed out that probably the land around these rivers has been the most fertile land. Most of the cultivation has happened here. So hence most of the pesticides, insecticides and chemicals have gone into it, and the industrial waste. So Probably that is the reason behind these cancers along these rivers. But there are other important things about geographical location. Say, for example, dietary habits. There are studies which have been done on the immigrant population, and they have seen that when people immigrate from this country to another country, if they immigrate late, the cancer risks, they remain same. But if someone is born there, their risk of cancer is almost the same as that population. So probably it's the dietary habits, along with the climate, all of these.
Okay, okay. Dr. Deepika Agarwal, getting you in here, you have a specialization in colposcopy, and that gives you an upper hand in diagnosing cervical cancer, which is also a big, after breast cancer, that's the cancer that is worrisome for the, women population of the country. Do you see a rising trend there? And, when you weigh genetics as a factor versus lifestyle factors, what has a heavier side?
So I think for the sake of the audience, I'll just tell what a colposcopy means. It's a very simple camera examination of the cervix, which is also called as the neck of the womb, right? Where you can actually take some biopsies from there where you are suspecting precancerous cells. Now, that's what is colposcopy, which we can easily do it in OPD. And through biopsy, we can detect the precancerous cells, which means before they actually become cancer. Now, that's where the role of the screening test for cervical cancer is. My request to all the female audience would be that there is something called as pap smear test, which is a simple OPD test, which every woman after the age of 25 should see their gynec. It's a simple swab. We take it in OPD. We get the results, and it will detect your cancer at a very well precancerous stage, which is fully treatable. Now, going back to your question, Megha. So I would say it's a mix of genetic factors and the lifestyle factors. It's not something that if a mother had it, then the daughter will have higher risk of cervical cancer. It's more to do with the breast and the ovaries rather than cervix. But the way it works, again, there is a role of mutation of the genes with all these pollutions and chemicals and everything we are talking. Mostly it is to do with the lifestyle, which means if a woman is smoking or she has multiple sexual partners, or if her immunity is low for whatever reason, whether there is a chronic stress or she has issues like hepatitis B or HIV, those are the women who are at higher risk of developing precancerous cells. And if they are not going for their screening test, which is a simple test, they will end up having cancer. Most of the time, these precancerous cells do not give symptoms, and that's very important for everyone to understand. You will not get symptoms like excessive vaginal discharge or bleeding because these are microscopic cells. Right. So I think this is one message I really want women to understand, that there is a huge role of screening for the cervical cancer.
Right, screening I would say, and regular checks, I think that is going to be important. But we will come to it, but let me get in Dr. Dinesh Paithankar here. Sir, lung cancer is one of the most common cancers in men, and while a lot of us here, maybe in this room also, are aware of the risks of cigarette, ya bidi smoking, tobacco chewing, but there are new trends now of flavored hookah ho gaya. There is vaping that a lot of people, lean on. How safe are these?
So, all kind of smoking, irrespective, be it tobacco, gutka, vaping, everything is injurious to the lung, and everything increases the risk of lung cancer. So please be aware, all things you inhale is injurious, and especially all newer things. But what one has to remember here is, we are talking of causes of cancer. Yeah. So there are causes of cancer which you can control as an individual. There are causes of cancer which society can control. And there are causes of cancer which only government can control. You have no control over the government. The government knows for 100 years tobacco is injurious. They are not banning, they will never ban. Society knows it's injurious. Society slightly, the incidence of smoking is coming down. You know it is injurious. 95% of you sitting here don't smoke today. So let us first talk of things which are in your control.
Right.
And that is tobacco, that is alcohol, that is infection, hepatitis, HPV, and that is obesity. These are 4 causes of cancer only which are in your control. Rest, genetics, pollution, pesticides, herbicide, rock food, good food, Yamuna food, they are beyond your control.
Correct.
So let's work on what we can control ourselves. Thank you.
That's really, I would say in a nutshell, very, very important. These 4 things, let's promise to do that. Quickly, our last round I'll do, Dr. Shyam Agarwal, there is a lot of hearsay related to cancer.
Right.
A lot of, some are myths, some are facts. And I will quickly, throw some of these statements at you, and I want you to quickly respond. Think of it as a rapid fire. Myths or facts? Underwire bras cause cancer.
It's a myth.
It's a myth.
Yeah, so I think it was thought that if you have that wire, the lymphatics will get blocked and, women may develop cancer, but it's not correct.
That's
it's
not
a
right.
myth, yeah.
Microwaving causes cancer.
So it depends on the rays. So microwave actually does not use ionizing radiation, so it doesn't cause cancer because only the ultraviolet rays and X-rays, they are the ones which are responsible for causing cancer. So microwave is safe, provided your cookware is, supposed to be, whatever is supposed to be used is microwavable. Yeah.
Right. Reheating stale food or reusing frying oil, puri, talte, then using sabji also, is that safe?
I mean, I think it's old saying that उसी वक्त बना के उसी वक्त खाना चाहिए. So anything, if you are reheating or frying, etc., should be avoided, if possible.
But you don't link it directly to, it's not a...
So there is some evidence that if you reheat, some chemicals can get produced and they may be linked, but there's no 100% proof there.
Right.
But better to use fresh cooked food.
Right. And last one that I have is black sodas cause cancer, as opposed to
So, there are so many myths. You have telephone, the cell phones which came in. So, people develop brain tumors and maybe parotid gland tumors, but they have not been proven. Similarly, sodas, there is no clear-cut proof that they do cause cancer. So, I think these are all myths.
Thank you.
But can I add, a couple of things which were just said. So, cervical cancer is a cancer which is caused by herpes papilloma virus, which gets incorporated as a result of infection. So the incidence of cervical cancer in the last 10 years has gone down in our country because the hygiene has improved. Earlier it was 1.5 to 2 lakhs cases per year. Now it has come down to 60, 70,000 cases per year. So it is an acquired, which is what Dr. Dinesh Bhandharkar said, it is in our control to keep the hygiene important. So if you have that hygiene, cervical cancer is going to go away. The second point I wanted to make was Ganges, where it flows. For example, I was in Bihar recently, Patna. Gallbladder cancer is #1 cancer in women there, just because of the chemicals, etc., which are contained in Ganges. In Srinagar, in those cold areas where they eat hot food, they drink gulp it. So, food pipe cancer, stomach cancers are very common. So there are geographical variations in cancer causation.
Yeah. There are geographical variations also, like you rightly said, that also our lifestyle there is different simply because of, by virtue of where you are geographically. Vandana, I want to ask you, there is a big pressure on all of us. And, there is also, rightfully doctors tell you to lose weight and, obesity is something that we need to stay away from. But there is this culture of fad dieting and quick weight loss solutions. We are talking about Ozempic and Mounjaro and that, it's accessible. You can go buy your slim figure. Would you advise treading with caution here?
Nowadays, there is a trend for the quick weight loss, and I don't approve of that because these medicines are generally for the diabetic, and now there is a trend for the obesity also. They have started it. But for the long run, there is no hard study for that it is effective. And there is a lot of side effects with that. There is stomach problems, and there is sarcopenia, long-run sarcopenia. And if they avoid this, after they stop these medicines, then they gain again.
The weight is going to come back.
So it is better that individualized diet, because we know that one diet doesn't suit everybody. So we should consult, and personalized diet should be taken from the dietitians, and according to their biochemical parameters and everything, their culture and everything, we make the diets, and they should have a balanced, and with exercise and lifestyle management is the best.
Right. So no shortcuts here, nothing, no medicine is going to help you. Dr. Srivastava, many of us are also used to pill popping. You know, kahin dard ho gaya, sar dard hai, dawai kha lo. We don't go to a doctor, we don't look for prescriptions, and you know, we are doing over the counter. We are also doing a lot of supplementation that we think ki ye bhi kha lete hain, magnesium bhi kha lete hain, iron bhi kha lete hain. What is the kind of pressure that we are putting our kidneys through with all of this?
See, if you have a headache, don't be afraid, you can pop a pill, but don't make a habit of it. If you know that you are having a headache because you haven't had your food, or you are having a headache because you didn't sleep last night, then that's your answer. Don't make a habit of, you know, taking painkillers and not changing your routine. If you ingest a lot of painkillers, although there is slight correlation between excessive painkillers and kidney cancers, but it puts a lot of pressure on the kidneys from the other angle also. So painkillers, too much of it, are bad for kidneys, are bad for your stomach. About supplements, guys, we don't need supplements if you are eating a good and balanced diet. Sometimes you might need vitamin D or vitamin B complex, but not a routine supplement with protein, not a routine supplement of vitamin C just to boost your immunity. Immunity will come with good sleep, exercise, and hydration. Right. See, ICMR came up with a very good report telling that the routine protein supplementation is not necessary, especially for the youngsters who are into gym and bodybuilding. But then there was a huge backlash. But I would agree with ICMR. You can get good amount of protein from your natural diet.
Yeah, and there are good protein sources in our diets. You know, there's sattu and all of that. Dr. Deepika Agarwal, I want to talk to you, you know, taking that conversation of pills. And, you know, there is a lot of conversation and concern about, you know, birth control pills and the morning after pill. Do you advise women to be cautious about the side effects of these pills?
So I think when side effects you're talking about cancer.
Yeah, the risk of cancer.
Okay. So we are all scientific people. We believe in robust evidences. When we talk about oral contraceptive pills, we don't have any robust evidence that if a woman is taking contraceptive pills for like 5, 7, 10 years, it increases the risk of cancer. However, there are some studies which were done in early 2000 which suggested that if a woman is taking for long term, and here we are talking more than 10 years or so, it might slightly increase her chance of having a breast cancer. That should not really deter us from taking contraceptive pills. I would still say we should take it because the evidence suggests that there is not. On the contrary, taking oral contraceptive pills have protective effect towards the endometrial cancers and ovarian cancers. So yes, don't get scared just by listening here and there, and it's better to take contraceptive pills than not to take if you need as a method of contraception, and same with the morning pills as well. There may be some side effects, but we are not talking cancer like headache and bloating. Right. Some women might get little migraine or that. Though that's different. That can be discussed with your caregiver, and we can always change the pills that you're taking.
Right. Women have had a long, arduous fight to get right to use the birth control pill, and I think you know, getting the right information is important before you know, just abandoning it. Dr. Dinesh, coming to you. Not that we need any more cancers, but we keep hearing of things like sari cancer, petticoat cancer. Sari bhi nahi pehenenge ab kya hai? What is it? Can you talk to us about what is the petticoat cancer?
See, there is not petticoat cancer. Let's go to, if you go to Srinagar, there is a synonym of petticoat cancer called Kangdi cancer. So they use hot bask of some hot plate put on the abdomen to keep themselves warm.
Yeah.
It causes cancer. So remember one thing, any chronic irritation is likely to cause cancer. So if anything is causing an irritation, if the petticoat or sari is so strongly tied that it is really causing a damage to the skin and a constant pressure at one particular point,
Right.
yes, it can cause cancer.
So in effect, it's a skin cancer.
It would be a skin cancer.
Yeah.
Similarly, let's go away from this point and go to a tooth cancer. So if your tooth is damaged and it constantly irritates your buccal mucosa, lot of at least 20-25% of oral cancer is because of abnormal tooth which are constantly irritating either your buccal mucosa or your tongue. So it's again an irritational cancer. So yes, irritational cancer is a physical possibility and it can happen.
Right. Thank you so much. So all of those who were delaying going to the dentist, please do that. And I think the important take back is listen to your bodies. It's giving you the signal. Sometimes, you know, things are not in our control, like Dr. Dinesh rightly said. We leave that to the higher powers, but what is in our control, we should do that. And I think the most important thing is awareness. You know, Angelina Jolie, of course, you know, in 2013, she went, she talked about her, you know, the risk that she had with BRCA1 gene. She went for double mastectomy, removed fallopian tubes in the ovary. And the big thing she talked about, and the big thing was that encouraged a lot of women to get themselves, their genes tested for the risk. So I think the important part, the big takeaway here is talk about it, read about it, go to the right people if you have questions, and let's not make cancer a hush-hush. Let's not fear it. Let's take it on. So thank you so much, all of our eminent panelists here. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, all of you, for being so patient. And once again, thank you very much.